Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Dawn of Yangchen chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 5, Forgiveness. So this chapter continues on directly from the last chapter. So Kavik has just been captured by Yangchen's guards, and we jump kind of straight in with that. She wants to talk to him, so this is the first chapter where we properly get to see the two interact together. And given that we already have seen how Yangchen is being somewhat reasonable with him, given that Kavik has tried to rob from her, you can get the sense that, okay, she's actually going to listen to him, they're going to have a conversation. So that's mostly what we focus on here, as well as the second half of the chapter, kind of in a way having this interesting reveal that Kavik has sort of lied about certain things that, like, we've learned in a way up to now. It's a real contrast between the start, the first half and the second half of the chapter when it comes to Kavik, and gets into this sort of aspect of his personality of, like, there are things that we still don't know about him just yet in the book. So we open up, of course, the guards have him captured. It turned out Kavik's punishment was pretty basic. It started out with a regular old beating, and you have to remember, she told the guards not to hurt him. So she basically comes down, like she said, a few minutes later, and she looks at Kavik, and that, they stop doing it obviously as she arrives down, but she knows what's been happening, and she's just like, Captain Guy, yes, you're fired. And just no nonsense, is just like, I told you exactly what I wanted you to do, and you did the exact opposite. You're gone. And she just basically says, report to Boma downstairs and tell him that you're fired and that you won't be involved in the Avatar's retinue anymore. So very blunt, very to the point, and it kind of highlights the sort of inherent sort of fairness of Yangchen in all of this, where she cares about stuff like this. That given that we've just had, like, a chapter or two ago, the idea that the Shang merchant that people have actual issue with just sent thugs out to attack the crowd, not really caring if they got hurt or not. Yangchen actually cares if her guards are hurting people, and you see here she straight away gets rid of them. And realizing this, I suppose Kavik again realizes, okay, she's going to be somewhat reasonable with me. Just immediately is just like, gets down on his hands and knees and is just like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know it was you. She calms him down and actually starts to heal him. So she heals the sort of wounds on his face from the punches and stuff like that he got. And then notably, of course, because a part of the infiltration scene for Kavik was getting across the idea of he's going to be spending a lot of time in or around ice. He's running the risk of frostbite quite heavily because he spent so much time infiltrating. So Yangchen is just like, okay, now give me your hands so we can avoid frostbite for you. And it's just noted here, like, that this moment, like, the Avatar layered his fingers between hers, the gesture uncomfortably intimate, and this time the glow was warm. Feeling returned to his skin, fixing damage from the cold was a lengthy, specific process, and he wondered how she came by the knowledge. So it's an interesting one in that obviously an Avatar, she learned from either the Northern Water Tribe or the Southern Water Tribe, I'm guessing, how to do healing. And they obviously specifically made sure to teach her counter to frostbite. Now, maybe they're highlighting here that, that wouldn't usually be the case, and so it's kind of notable that she learned it. Why? Who really knows? I'm not sure it's necessarily leading into anything, but just noting that Yangchen has done maybe more training than maybe is perhaps necessary. One thing that is noted here, though, is that when Yangchen comes into the room, it's noted here, once his vision unblurred, the Avatar stood before him in her full regalia. She was startlingly pretty. So that's sort of from Kavik's perspective. And again, the whole, they basically, like, link hands together to do the hand healing thing. It's little moments that are like, oh, are they going for romance here straight away? And it's one of those things where you can perhaps read it that way if you want. But throughout the book, you just see that they have a kind of good, a fun dynamic together, but that you wouldn't necessarily read that many of their scenes as being, like, inherently romantic in nature, but that maybe this is the groundwork for going in that direction if they wanted to. That's always been my perspective on it, having read through the book now a few times. So, you know, that's just something to note here. But anyway, there's a fun little moment here where she just mentions that, like, you kind of pick the wrong stage in the Avatar cycle to rob. Air nomads don't really have many possessions. But he notes that, like, okay, I'll tell you the truth. I wasn't robbing your possessions, really. I was just kind of looking for intelligence and information. And so she connects the dots of, like, oh yeah, okay. This is what they kind of warned me about when I came to Bin that everyone is working for someone higher up, and that, yes, intelligence is the kind of the big thing. It's a city of spies to a degree. She notes that everyone you meet in Bin is in someone else's pocket, or so I've heard the saying. Which Shang do you work for? And Kavik is like, none, I'm independent, just trying to survive day to day. She asks, are you supporting a family? And he says, no. I came to Bin by myself after my parents died. I thought there'd be steady work, but I couldn't find any. I've got nothing to my name. So she does note the comparison of, like, she is not used to being on her own. Like, she's never had that in her life. She's always had people around her in the air nomads, and then, of course, you know, since she's been more active as the Avatar, she's always had people around her. So she wishes she could, like, understand that, you know, perspective of just being alone. Kavik just goes over the idea of, like, how, you know, people think you can make an easy life for yourself in Bin by doing just some very simple things, but the harsh truth is that you're not worth anything until someone else decides that you are. And Yangchen just flat out presents, like, what she kind of wants to do. Her perspective as the Avatar is that, you know, I'm hoping I can change such attitudes before they become permanent. Let a problem last for too long and people begin to believe it's not a problem. Maybe I can start with you. And effectively what she does here is she's just like, okay, understanding your background now, you only run these jobs as an errand runner, spy, informant, these sort of, like, kind of criminal like behavior. You only do these things for money to survive. Yes. So she's kind of like, okay, I'll start with you. And she basically just gives him a bunch of money, with the idea being that, well, here's enough money that you will not need to run any of these jobs, at least for the time I'm in Bin hanging around. This way, just with this money, I don't have to, you know, complicate my time here with you, and it might help you accomplish kind of something that you need to do. It is a little bit of a fun dynamic because Kavik is like, wait, you're just gonna give me money and just let me go after I tried to rob you? And she's kind of like, well, I'm not exactly gonna send you to air nomad jail over this. So there's just a fun kind of thing here. So she's just gonna, you know, help him for as long as the money lasts here, basically. He then is like, wait. An air nomad avatar should not handle money. And he's like, please don't touch that money. So he kind of forces her to, like, give him the money by just, like, pouring it out of the pouch rather than actually just, like, handing it to him. So it's just, she rolls her eyes at it because it's just like, oh, one of these people, but she goes along with it. She just tells him, go out that way, don't let anyone see you, and everything will be fine. And so he just notes as this kind of sequence ends, like halfway through the chapter, that, like, what just happened? Like, I met the Avatar, like, nearly tried to rob her and got away with it, and she gave me a bunch of money, a lot of money. How did this happen? He's just, like, baffled by the fact that it went so well. And so this is Kavik leaving Yangchen. And so the rest of the chapter is just Kavik sort of on his own. So this is where we get more sort of insight into what's going on. Some interesting stuff here. We see him walking through Bin. He's basically making his way back to the water tribe section of the city. So we get this idea that he makes sure to avoid any trails, because he's going to obviously a location he doesn't want loads of people to find out about. So I just noticed that he sort of like opens this door to make it look like he goes in here, sprints down the road, makes it look like some ice has just fallen to distract some people, and then, you know, knocks at just this random door and is just let in. And so this is where we meet this character named Mama Ayunarak, Ayuneorak, a grey-haired water tribe woman. So we learn here that she effectively runs this kitchen that is there to help people who are struggling in Bin-Ur. It is obviously focused on the Water Tribe people, but I think the implication is that she helps other people as well. And so it's this very kind of charitable situation of like she is bringing the Water Tribe customs of being very focused on family and community and helping people by giving them meals so that they can survive when, you know, work is hard to come by. So Kavik comes in, and there's a fun dynamic where she notes that like, hey, you look smitten. I haven't seen that dopey grin since Meihua dumped you. So obviously she knows that Kavik was previously in a relationship with someone, and that he is clearly lost in thought about this interaction with Yangchen. So he just notes that narrowly getting away with one's life could do that to a man. So he explains the whole situation like in the text here, but he actually gives what seems to be most or all of the money he was just given to Mama Ayunarak, highlighting that, okay, he really values what she brings to the Water Tribe community here, and he gives her this money to help out, and she's really like shocked by this, and it's like, well, where'd you get this from? And he just says, don't ask, but he notes, it's been a while since you visited your cousins in Port Tugok, right? Take that money and go to see them. Do it for all us saps who don't have travel rights. So obviously Mama Ayunarak has travel rights. She can leave Bin-Ur if she wants. And here is him giving her the money to go to Port Tugok. Now, this place isn't explained until a little bit later on in the book. This is one of the other Shang cities, one of the 4. This is the one that is located closer to the southern Water Tribe, so it's actually quite a bit away. But obviously this is the other Water Tribe Shang city, whereas like Bin-Ur is effectively the one more about the northern Water Tribe. That one's more the one about the southern Water Tribe. So interesting stuff. Now, this is an important point to remember because Mama Ayunarak is here for, I think, a little bit at the start, and you don't come back to her until much, much later on, to the point where you almost like forget about the character and the whole details of like that. You forget that this sequence here in this chapter actually happened. So just remember that she has now the means to go to Port Tugok in the south. So important thing to note there. So he just, you know, basically thanks her for this, and there's a bit of a weird point here that I'm interested to see if future scenes with Mama Ayunarak explains this. But just, you know, he just is like, I wasn't here, and goes to leave. And it says like, Ayunarak was too dumbfounded to shout at him as he ran around the back corner. Near her kitchen's refuse trough, close to the ground and covered by rotting cabbage leaves, was a loose brick, and hidden behind that was a key. And then, new paragraph, without further incident, he reached Bin-Ur's Water Tribe quarter. And I'm just kind of like, what? So he has this key, and look, again, this is one of these things, this is one of these maybe minor detail points that gets covered in the coming chapters or something like that, and I might be completely misremembering something, but, you know, obviously there's some sense that there's a key that is either related to the fact that the Mama Ayunarak's kitchen is meant to be somewhat secret, except to the people who know, or Kavik is storing a secret key there. But again, we'll connect the dots here, even though I've read the book a couple of times now. Some of the little details like that I'm kind of completely forgetting about. So we see that he makes his way to the Bin-Ur Water Tribe quarter. A little bit of world building here of just kind of highlighting that the dwellings were fitted to the seasons. Right now, they were staving off the winter using winter. So the Water Tribe people are basically making their houses out of snow, effectively. But it's noted that when it got warmer in the summer, the residents would switch over to sod houses and tents as necessary. This is where he also notes that seeing the domed snow structures that actual Water Tribe people would make, how the squared off blue manse that he was just infiltrating was so kind of badly done and just like a kind of a novelty type thing. It was built for Middle-ear dignitaries who merely wanted the novelty of sleeping under frozen water. And then the reveal comes out. Right at the end of this chapter, it's revealed here that Kavik lied to Yangchen somewhat badly in some of this. he has a family, and he just goes back to his house. His mother's there, his father is there. You don't see his brother, but like nothing is really said about it as such. So it's just kind of like, okay, what's going on here? Why did he tell Yangchen he doesn't have a family? Why lie about that in a way? And then obviously the idea is like he does these jobs to make money, but they establish that he lives in probably one of the biggest houses in this section of Bin So it seems like his family is actually somewhat well off, in that it's noted like his father barely looked up from the ledgers he'd brought back from the counting house. So his father obviously has work, other people are struggling with it, and he is deciding to do these undercover jobs as an informant, errand runner. Yes, I guess to make money, but what exactly is going on here? It does get explained in the coming chapters, but for now it's meant to be this kind of like weird aspect of his character where like it seems like things should be relatively normal for him, but he's choosing this like other path. What exactly is going on here? So, you know, his mother asks him, you're back late, how was your day? And he just says, was okay. But in his head he's thinking, almost died, met the Avatar, stole from her. And this is where you're like, wait, he stole from her? I thought he handed the scroll back, but now it's revealed that, remember in like the last chapter where it was mentioned that like he jostled the table as he dropped through the floor? It's because he grabbed an envelope on the way through. So he's actually stole one of the letters that Yangchen had there. And that's what he's using to sort of, you know, I suppose fulfill the deal he currently was trying to do, which was to get information for the person he was working for. So that's that situation. And he just noted he tucked it under his shirt for later. Be careful passing through the square tomorrow, he tells his parents. There was trouble earlier. And yeah, we just get this really interesting kind of point of like, he just asked his family what's for dinner, and that's where the chapter ends. So obviously presenting like a little bit of a kind of slight dual life aspect to Kavik here, where it seems like he doesn't need to do this errand runner work, but is doing it. And why is that the case? Because you can see he's a good-hearted character in that he's like, he gave, it seems like most of the money he got from Yangchen, which was a lot, to the person who helps the Water Tribe people. So he cares about the people around him, cares about his family, but is lying to the Avatar and all this sort of stuff. So what's the deal here? And this is what's going to be come out over the next couple of chapters there. So this one's very more to the point of like, okay, this is the dynamic with Yangchen and Kavik, as well as just a new angle to Kavik. You see with Yangchen, very, very reasonable, confident in how she handles things, wanting to, you know, try and fix things in Bin That, like, she's here to have a meeting with the Shangs, as we'll see in a couple of chapters, and she immediately wants to change the nature of this place. Like, going in knowing that, like, there are errand runners, informants all over the place. Someone works for someone high up. That's the case with everyone. It's a city of spies. That sounds like a place someone like the Avatar would want to change. And she feels like she can potentially start with Kavik. But he's lied to her about the full situation. So, very interesting stuff to start it off. Now, it might seem like, oh, how are Yangchen and Kavik going to come back into communication with each other? Because we know from the description from the book that these two are kind of paired up for most of the book. We will see that very, very shortly. So just be aware of that. So yeah, there is my thoughts on chapter 5. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are if you have any. But that has been it. Thanks for watching, and bye.